Now, 2015 is a critical year for African democracy, with citizens going to the polls. At least a dozen African countries, Nigeria and Lesotho, showed a peaceful transfer, and the status quo in Sudan. We've also seen that. Ballots in Tanzania, Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso will be hotly contested. But let us take a look at some of the countries that have been having problems with the polls. We look at Togo. The first country is Togo. The results announced on the 28th of April. Now, Togo's constitutional court confirmed that incumbent Faure Nasibe won a third time, defeating opposition leader Jean-Pierre Fabre. Now, the opposition leader had rejected his fraudulent provisional results. The victory in the largely peaceful election will to more than half a century, because Nasibe has been president since 2005, when his father died after 38 years of the West African nation. Let us now go to Sudan. Omar Hassan al-Bashir has been in power since 1989. Now, the opposition Sudanese Congress Party criticizes the African Union over its monitoring of the country's general elections, now accusing it of bias towards the government. Incumbent President Hassan al-Bashir won the election after the main opposition parties boycotted the polls by not fielding any candidates at all. We move on to Ethiopia now. Results were announced in 22nd of June. Haile Mariam Desalegn has been in power since 2012. Ethiopia's ruling party has secured a historic victory in the East African country's May 24th general elections, now with nearly 100% of the vote. The Ethiopian People Revolutionary Democratic Front and its regional allies won 546 out of the 547 seats in parliament. Let us now go to Burundi. In Burundi, the elections are scheduled for the 21st of July. They were scheduled for the 21st of July, and the government of Burundi and the political opposition failed to agree on the electoral process, with the opposition stating that the government is violating the constitution and the Arusha agreement, which brought an end to the civil war. We move on to Burkina Faso. Here the elections were postponed, and Burkina Faso soldiers marched into the capital Ouagadougou without resistance as the country's army chief began surrender talks with the group that staged a coup against the government. Let's now go to the next board, where it is Ivory Coast. The elections were to be held on the 25th of October, and as Cote d'Ivoire inches closer to its first election since the violently disputed polls of 2010, efforts to deliver justice, promote reconciliation and disarm fighters are being criticized for failing to shield the country from renewed instability. Moving on now to the Central African Republic. Elections date is unknown. Now, after twice postponing the elections, the head of the authority in charge of elections in conflict-torn Central African Republic resigned over pressure to hold national polls before the end of 2015. Now, however, a transitional authority scheduled the first round of the presidential and legislative polls for October 18th. We move on to Guinea now. The 11th October, and Alpha Conde has been in power since 2010. Guinea's opposition candidates said that they will not recognize provisional results for the country's presidential elections, citing fraud and a move criticized by the government. Now, the government has hit back, saying such challenges by the opposition are systematic, adding that the Independent Electoral Commission regulates the process and the vote was overseen by thousands of international observers. Earlier on, we saw a group of women, at least 2,000 of them, having an initiative to stop any violence.